What if, in this very moment, the invisible thread that holds Earth in orbit snapped our world, began its slow descent into fire? The planet drifts, not outward into the dark, but inward, drawn by the gravity of the star it has always circled. For billions of years, it is this balance that gives birth to seasons, tides, and the fragile cradle of life itself. But if that harmony breaks, the spiral begins. A world no longer dancing, but falling. The first sensation would not be violent. Earth would not lurch or tremble. To those standing under its skies, nothing would seem different at all. The pull of the sun has always been there, always guiding. Only now, without motion to resist it, the descent is inevitable. A silent collapse, hidden in plain sight. Time becomes the measure of doom. Earth is 150 million kilometers from the sun, a gulf that light itself crosses in just over 8 minutes. But a planet cannot fall at the speed of light. It stumbles slowly, caught in the curvature of spacetime. If the forward push is gone, gravity takes control. In mere weeks, the orbit begins to shrink. At first, the skies remain unchanged. Sunrise follows sunset. Oceans continue to rise and fall. Forests breathe in rhythm with the wind. To the unaware, life is ordinary. Yet the geometry of the heavens has shifted. The Earth is no longer circling. It is on a slow, straightening line inward. Within days, the sun's face grows subtly larger. The shift is barely perceptible, a widening no eye could truly measure. But the subconscious would feel it a faint unease, as though the horizon itself leans closer. Astronomers, however, would not mistake it. Their instruments would whisper the truth. Earth is falling, and so begins the great countdown. Weeks pass. The sun looms brighter, its warmth stretching further, its light pressing harder against the atmosphere. Temperatures rise by degrees that seem harmless at first, just an unusually warm season. But the change does not relent. The oceans breathe out their vapors more fiercely. Ice retreats from the poles. Rainfall stumbles from its ancient patterns. Still, the world continues in silence. No quake, no sudden rift, only the invisible draw of gravity, patient and inexorable. Humanity, for the first time in history, would know the certainty of an approaching end. The fall is not a plunge, but a glide, and that is what makes it cruel. It grants time to watch, to measure, to despair. Civilizations would count the days by the swelling sun, each dawn more swollen, more searing. Nations would argue, religions would rise, and poets would write of fire. All the while, the descent continues. The skies themselves would begin to change. Colors deepen as more energy bleeds into the atmosphere. Sunsets flare into blood-red hues. Horizons burn gold for longer hours. It is beautiful, and it is deadly. The atmosphere thickens with water vapor, a greenhouse no longer stable but accelerating. Clouds roil higher, storms gather strength. And beneath the storms, the surface grows restless. Crops wither in the rising heat, rivers recede into dust. Animals migrate desperately from dying ecosystems. The delicate web of life, stretched thin by millennia of balance, begins to unravel. And yet, even here, there is no sudden violence, only the steady whisper of inevitability. Earth is a world caught in a slow embrace with its star, and that embrace tightens with every passing day. Miniature signs accumulate. Compass needles quiver more subtly, affected by the deep churning of an atmosphere under stress. Ocean currents falter, no longer driven by familiar contrasts between hot and cold. Migratory birds lose their ancient maps, skies filled with disoriented flocks. It is as though Earth itself senses the wrongness, a body aware of its own fall. Month by month, the sun swells. What was once a distant sphere now dominates the sky. Shadows grow sharper, heat presses down like a weight. Cities swelter, deserts expand. Humanity's inventions, air conditioning, reservoirs, dams strain against the change. But no machine can outwit a star. And still, the planet keeps falling. Gravity is silent. It does not rage. It does not announce itself. It waits, patient, inevitable, the same as it has been since the birth of the cosmos. Earth is only now surrendering to it fully. The world does not yet burn, but it dreams of fire. People look up at dusk and sense it, the future written in the widening glare above them. Humanity has always believed the sun to be its source of life. Now, it is revealed as the author of its end, and in that revelation lies a deeper unease. This fall is not alien. It is not caused by war. It is the universe itself, the most natural of motions, the simple truth that anything not in balance must one day succumb to the pull of gravity. The silence stretches. Earth continues on its new path. The orbit is gone, replaced by a destiny of collapse. The story has only begun, and the descent has only just revealed its first hints. The planet falls, and though no tremor shakes the ground, the quiet itself becomes unbearable. Somewhere, an astronomer gazes at the widening face of the sun and understands the truth. The waltz is over. The Earth is no longer dancing. It is falling. And the question that lingers is not whether it will end but how long the fall will last. For millennia, humans looked skyward and asked a simple question. Why does the Earth not plunge into the sun? To ancient eyes, the heavens appeared eternal, locked in patterns that repeated with divine precision. The sun rose, the moon waxed and waned, and the planets wandered like luminous spirits across the dark. The sky was a clock, and Earth seemed its unmoving heart. Yet beneath that calm was a haunting dread. If things fall on Earth, why does Earth itself not fall? What prevents the world from tumbling into the fire it circles? The earliest answers were myths. The Greeks spoke of celestial spheres, crystalline shells carrying the stars. Others told of gods holding the Earth in place, or invisible flames pushing planets along. These were not foolish dreams, but the first attempt to make sense of an impossible stability. Then came Johannes Kepler. Watching the heavens through cold, sleepless nights, he noticed that planets do not move in perfect circles, but in ellipses, stretched like taut strings. His laws described their motion with extraordinary accuracy, yet they could not explain why. The question still lingered, heavy and unresolved. What holds them there? It was Isaac Newton who dared to ask in a new way. Legend tells of the apple falling silently from a tree. Did the same force that pulled the fruit downward also pull the moon? Could Earth itself be suspended not by divine machinery, but by a universal law? Newton's insight cracked the cosmos open. Gravity was not confined to Earth. It reached across space itself. He imagined a cannon perched on a mountain. Fire it slowly, and the ball falls back to Earth. Fire it faster, and it arcs farther before striking the ground. But fire it at the perfect speed, and the ball never falls. Instead, it circles endlessly, falling forever yet always missing the Earth. In that image lay the truth. Orbit is nothing more than continuous falling, and so the dread revealed itself. Earth, the home of all humanity, is not resting safely in space, it is already in descent. Hurtling around the sun in a vast curve, gravity pulling at every moment. Only the forward rush prevents the final collapse. Our survival hangs on motion, not stillness. Newton's revelation transformed the world. The universe was no longer a set of divine wheels, but a theater of forces, calculable, predictable, yet merciless. For the first time, the fate of planets could be written in numbers. Earth's orbit was not eternal, it was delicate. If the balance faltered, gravity would not hesitate. Centuries later, Albert Einstein lifted the veil further. Gravity, he argued, was not an invisible tether stretching through space. It was the bending of space-time itself, the way a great star curves the very fabric of reality. Earth does not cling to the sun, it rolls endlessly along a curved path, caught in the geometry of existence. Remove its forward stride, and it would sink inward like a stone into a well. The beauty of Einstein's vision carried a deeper terror. Falling is the most natural state of all. Every orbit is a delay of collapse. Every balance is temporary. Astronomers of the early 20th century looked skyward with this knowledge, and unease whispered through their calculations. The stars themselves are not eternal. They burn through their fuel and collapse. Galaxies collide. Orbits decay. The universe is not a clock wound once, and left to teak it is a drama of forces, endless and consuming. And yet, despite the dread, there was awe. To know that Earth is falling, and yet falling so perfectly that it circles the sun without end, is to glimpse both fragility and miracle. Humanity's home is balanced on a knife's edge. The precision of motion protecting it from the inferno below, but Newton and Einstein both left the same warning. The balance cannot be taken for granted. Remove the motion, and gravity wins. Pause the dance, and the fall begins. The Earth would drift inward slowly at first, then with accelerating haste until the star consumed it. The story of science is not only revelation, but confrontation with fragility. Every equation, every telescope, whispers the same unsettling truth. Safety is an illusion. Balance is a momentary gift, and the forces of the cosmos are indifferent to its loss. What must it have felt like for Newton to realize the moon is forever falling? For Einstein to see space itself bent under the weight of stars? These were triumphs of intellect, but they were also glimpses of doom. To explain the heavens is to admit their indifference. The astronomer's dread lingers even now. Humanity walks under skies that feel stable, yet are woven from precarious motion. Every sunrise is a reminder of Earth's orbit. Every sunset, a subtle echo of its fragility. The planet falls, always falls. Only its sideways rush, keeping the fire at bay. And so the question remains, suspended like a sword above all life. What if the motion ceased? What if the balance failed? Newton's cannonball would crash to Earth. The moon would spiral inward, and Earth itself, without its delicate forward, flight would begin its journey homeward. Into the star that birthed it, the thinkers of history gave us the truth. We are already falling, endlessly, gracefully, precariously. And if one day the balance breaks, the descent will not wait. Gravity keeps no mercy, only patience. And the Earth's slow surrender would mark the beginning of the greatest unraveling. The fall begins with silence, but science gives it a rhythm. Equations become the ticking of a cosmic clock. Earth's fate is not a guess, but a calculation. Distance, velocity, heat. The mathematics of falling paints the slow, inexorable portrait of collapsed. Earth orbits the Sun at about 30 kilometers per second. This forward rush balances the Sun's gravity, keeping the planet suspended in a perfect arc. Remove that velocity, and Earth becomes a stone released from a sling. From its current distance, 150 million kilometers, the descent would take mere months. Not instantly, but swiftly enough that the world would feel the change long before its final plunge. At first, the change is subtle. Within a few weeks, Earth drifts tens of millions of kilometers inward. The Sun appears larger in the sky, its warmth more oppressive. Temperatures climb. A rise of even 2 or 3 degrees across the globe destabilizes the climate. Deserts expand. Ice sheets retreat. The greenhouse effect intensifies as oceans release water vapor, the most potent of all heat-trapping gases. By the second month, the changes are impossible to ignore. The Sun looms roughly 10% larger in the sky. Average global temperatures soar past thresholds that today feel apocalyptic. 40 degrees Celsius across temperate zones, 50 in the tropics. Crops fail. Power grids collapse under the strain of cooling a burning world. Humanity feels the first true pangs of extinction, but the planet's story is only beginning. As Earth spirals closer, the oceans respond first. Water, once a vast regulator of climate, turns against its keeper. Evaporation surges. Seas retreat into clouds. Storms blanket continents. Hurricanes roar with unbroken fury, and rain falls in endless cycles. Eventually, the oceans cease to exist as surfaces at all, transforming into a global atmosphere of steam. Earth becomes a greenhouse without relief, its skies swollen with water vapor. With oceans gone, the crust cracks. The cooling engine of plate tectonics falters, mountains stall, and volcanic fury stirs. Ash fills the air, mixing with steam, creating a world shrouded, not in darkness, but in a haze that magnifies heat at roughly 50 million kilometers from the Sun. The world crosses a threshold of fire. The average surface temperature reaches hundreds of degrees Celsius. Lead and zinc would melt in the open air. Rivers, long gone, are only scars on the baked crust. Life retreats into the deepest caves, perhaps even into the ocean's final trenches. But even there, survival falters. The Sun is no longer a nurturing flame, it is an approaching wall of fire. The atmosphere itself begins to collapse. Heated molecules gain enough speed to escape gravity's grip. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen all flee upward, stripped by solar winds. Within months, Earth transforms from a blue world to a barren sphere, cloaked only in thin veils of heavy gases. What remains of the air is poisonous, unbreathable, and scorching. Now the planet is naked, yet here the mathematics poses questions as haunting as the imagery. Would Earth even survive to touch the Sun? Or would tidal forces tear it apart long before impact? The sun's gravity is not uniform. The side of Earth nearest the star feels a stronger pull than the far side. As the planet draws closer, this difference becomes violent. Mountains tremble, tectonic plates crack. If Earth drifts too near, it enters the sun's roach, limits the distance at which tidal forces could rip it apart. Instead of a single world descending into fire, the Earth might dissolve into a rain of molten fragments, arcing into the sun like sparks cast into a furnace. And yet, calculations suggest that Earth might resist long enough to meet its final embrace. Its iron core, dense and unyielding, would hold the planet together until the very last stage. If it survives the roach limit, Earth plunges whole, swallowed by the sun's outer layers in a flare of unimaginable energy. The event would ripple through the solar system, briefly brightening the star, a tiny echo of cosmic consumption. Even in destruction, Earth would leave a mark. Its heavy elements, iron, nickel, calcium, would seed the sun's convection zones, vanishing into its turbulent plasma. For a fleeting moment, the sun would carry the ashes of a planet in its burning heart. The timeline of this collapse is cruelly short. From the first moment of release to the final plunge, the Earth's descent would span perhaps 2 or 3 months. Weeks of silence, followed by weeks of chaos, ending in fire. A slow-motion apocalypse long enough to watch, but not long enough to escape. And still, questions linger at the edges of certainty. Could fragments survive the fall, cast outward by the violence of tidal breakup? Might shards of Earth drift into new orbits, cold relics circling the sun like tombstones? Could microbial life endure in the shadows of molten rock, hidden even as the oceans boil away? Science cannot answer with finality. And in that uncertainty lies both hope and dread. For in the mathematics of falling, one truth is inescapable: gravity waits. The sun does not reach for Earth, it does not hunger, it simply curves space, and in that curvature, Earth finds no escape. The forward rush is gone. The descent is certain, the equations are clear, the imagery merciless: oceans boiling into air, air bleeding into space, crust cracking under pressure. Finally, the world consumed. The beauty of balance gone, replaced by inevitability. This is not an instant annihilation, but something far crueler: a drawn-out descent. A slow erasure of blue into black, green into gray, life into silence. Earth does not crash, it surrenders, piece by piece. To the fire it once orbited, the numbers whisper the truth. There is no rescue in physics, no reprieve in calculation. The Earth's fall is written from the first moment of release, and its path ends only in fire. And yet, beyond the certainty of equations, one question remains: what does such an ending mean? Not for a planet, but for those who once called it home. The end of Earth does not come with a single explosion. It arrives in stages, each more silent, more irreversible than the last. Long before the planet touches the sun, life itself has already surrendered. Civilization collapses first. Crops wither, rivers vanish, oceans boil upward into the air. Cities turn to furnaces beneath a sky that no longer gives relief. In desperation, humanity retreats underground, builds shelters deep within mountains, beneath oceans, within caverns cooled by the crust. But no refuge can endure. As the atmosphere thickens with steam, as temperatures climb beyond survivable thresholds, survival becomes a countdown of dwindling days. Somewhere, in those last human hours, stories are still told. Children are comforted with tales of stars, of the way the Earth once danced in balance. Elders recall the taste of rain, the chill of winter, the sound of forests alive with birdsong. Memories become the only refuge left, the last fragile fire against the encroaching blaze. The oceans, once the lungs of the world, are gone. Their beds crack open into deserts of salt and the great whales, the ancient coral. The drifting schools of silver life are reduced to fossils waiting for a fire that will never allow them to be found. The blue planet fades to ochre and gray dot. As the descent continues, even silence changes. No wind whispers, no rivers carve valleys. The planet grows still, heavy, waiting. The final days of Earth are not loud, but eerily calm, as though the world itself has grown weary. Then comes the last dawn. It begins like any other sunrise, but larger, harsher, swollen with menace. The sun fills a third of the sky, a golden wound tearing at the heavens. Shadows vanish, scorched away by the sheer weight of light. The air itself glows, thick with heat, shimmering with invisible violence. No human remains to see it, perhaps only cameras left abandoned in caves, their final recordings melting as the light grows unbearable. But if eyes could still gaze upon this sunrise, they would see a beauty cruel beyond measure. The world is ending in fire, yet the colors are exquisite: crimson horizons, molten gold streaking the clouds of steam, the last fragments of blue sky dissolving like ink in flame. The heartbeat of Earth slows, its magnetic field falters, its core churns desperately as outer layers weaken. Gravity, which once sculpted mountains and shielded oceans, now only pulls the planet toward its consuming star. And as Earth nears its final approach, another question arises: what becomes of meaning? If every story ever told, every empire built, every child born ends in fire, was it for nothing? Or was the meaning not in permanence, but in the fragile, fleeting miracle of existence itself? In the stillness of collapse, the universe whispers a paradox. Earth is destroyed not because it was flawed, but because it was part of the same physics that gave it life. Gravity, which pulled dust into stars, which sculpted galaxies and cradled planets, is the same force that now unravels this one. The knife's edge that sustains life is narrow by necessity too far, and a planet freezes to close and it burns. Earth lived for billions of years in that balance, and in those years, it became home to minds that could ask why. Perhaps that is the last miracle, not survival, but awareness. The final plunge begins. If Earth survives intact past the sun's roach limit, it falls whole, swallowed in silence by the outer atmosphere of its star. A brief flare of light may ripple outward, a ghost of its passing, a reminder to no one. The fragments of Earth's iron core sink inward, lost in the sun's churning depths, erased as though they never existed. The curtain falls, but endings in the cosmos are not absolute. The atoms of Earth, forged in ancient supernova, do not vanish. They dissolve into the star, only to be flung outward one day when the sun itself dies. In that distant age, pieces of Earth may drift once more into space, scattered into nebulae, waiting to be reborn in worlds yet unimagined. The cycle continues: fire into dust, dust into stars, stars into worlds. And so Earth's end is not only destruction, it is a reminder of fragility, of balance, of the strange gift of time. For a brief span in an endless universe, a small planet circled its star at just the right distance. It cooled, it formed oceans, it grew forests, it dreamed. For billions of years, it was blue, alive, luminous against the dark dot. As the final dawn rises, the lesson it leaves is not despair, but perspective. Existence is rare, balance is fragile, and even the smallest moment of awareness in the cosmos is infinite in meaning. The Earth dissolves into fire, its story complete. Yet the question remains, suspended in the silence that follows: is it only gravity that saves us, or the miracle of balance itself, the thin, fragile dance that makes a world alive?